What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab. We are a podcast about Overwatch, but specifically the strategies in the game, and we're going to be talking like trial and error in a lab format, or even the scientific method. And sometimes, as you may know, things get a little crazy and may blow up in our faces, as well as maybe yours with these strategies. So hopefully we can stir in some tips for you, the player, to play a little bit better. This week is episode number 65. I am your host, Rob May, and joining me all the way from Georgia is your friend and mine, Andres Gomez. What is up, Andres?
What is up, everybody? Glad to be here another day. I know that on our Discord, we had a really huge announcement for today, and I'm going to go ahead and say it for everyone, but we were able to get in touch with Carolina Ravassa, the voice actress for Sombra. And she was supposed to come on the show today. For those of you who knew about it, I'm sorry. It's just Rob and me. It's just the two of us, two boring old dudes. No awesome voice actors coming into the show. But regardless, we are having her hopefully next week or whenever she has time. She's a very busy woman. She had an audition come up today, so that's why she couldn't make it on the show this early. But yeah. It's still happening, so if you guys want to submit your questions, head on over to the Discord and submit those over there. We are super excited to have her, and we'll keep you guys updated with that.
And as most of you may know, there is a little patch that we got, actually two little patches that we got this week that is more than enough to talk about, even without a guest. So buckle up. This week, we're talking about some news in esports. We're going to dip our toes into it and maybe some of your interest in that. We're going to try to talk about some Lucio competitive stuff. We're also going to talk about the public test realm and some brand new changes that rolled out there within the last 24 hours of our recording. And we're really engaged in a lot of other podcasts that are in the Overwatch scene that we want to discuss with you this week as well, kind of help promote the whole community. So let's talk about these things by starting with the announcements. Andres got the first thing out of the way with Sombra voice actor Carolina Ravassa. We're going to try to be very flexible with this. So if you are waiting on other heroes or you're looking for specific map strategies and all of these things, hold all your horses. We'll get to those guys. We're getting to planning on some other guests in the future. But the next 2 weeks in particular, we're going to do our best to try to reschedule with Carolina Ravassa. And if things kind of fall through, we're going to have to move forward from that moment. There's a moment at the end of this month that I will be unavailable during the normal recording time. So Andres will most likely have to fill my shoes with either her or someone else as a whole. So we'll see how we can roll with the punches there. So let's get into some news now that we've got the announcements out of the way. So the first thing of news here is the Omnic Meta, our official sponsor, #Switch. Over there in our Discord as one of our admins. If you have any questions about his website, you can go over there. But Omnic Meta this week has 2 posts since our last show. The console meta report for August 8th, including Doomfist, and also Doomfist impact in the meta. This week, I wanted to do a little bit more of a highlight of 3 big statements that I found in the article. The first big highlight is that, as it turns out, Doomfist is more efficient in converting damage done to kills than any other offensive hero in the game. And this is also reflected in the analysis by comparing eliminations to damage dealt to heroes. So you'll see that his damage is significantly less than the averages of all of the other heroes in their given tiers, but his eliminations and confirmed kills, or last hits as you would say it in other games, are right up there above the rest. And Andres, why don't you read the bottom line here?
Yeah, sure thing. It's an interesting statement.
And we'll comment on it.
It makes sense. But sure, the bottom line also from Omnic Meta It says, it seems clear that Doomfist's net impact on a match is very high, provided that he can survive and secure enough kills. His burst damage stemming from his rocket punch appears to be Doomfist's big asset. While he requires great skill to be able to play well, Doomfist is a hero worth playing. The biggest question right now is whether Doomfist is a hero that can be played on all maps, on both defense and offense.
Any other final comments on that, Andres? I feel like that summed up most of the article as well as my impressions of Doomfist's release.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the stats are reflecting his gameplay like quite well. His kit is not very spammy, right? He doesn't have the capability to deal damage at all times, kind of like Soldier can do,
Right.
or McCree can do. Even Sombra can do a lot of spam damage, you know. But Doomfist is very restricted. He only deals damage when he's very up close, and we know that once he gets up close to you, Doomfist is one of those heroes that can one-shot you, kind of thing, with his rocket punch, just like out of the way. And I think that the difference with most heroes, like for example with McCree, it's a slow ramp up, right? You have to damage your target, and then eventually, if they don't get healed or they don't go around a corner and dodge you, you get the kill, right? Like sometimes you can get really bursty if you can deal like a double headshot on somebody, but that still takes some time to like ramp up, and it's healable damage, right? But Doomfist damage, I feel, is not healable damage. So the amount of damage he deals to heroes is on the lower side, but it's so effective and it's so bursty that he just gets the kills with that little damage that he did.
I mean, he works like a hunter, right? It's similar to playing Reaper, Tracer, and even sometimes Genji. But Genji is a very different comparison, so I'll refrain from comparing it that way. But like, there's no part of the kit in which reflects the ability to do spam besides his primary fire.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at medium to long range, you're not really doing any effective damage if you are doing any. You know what I mean? Like if you're landing shots, it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And so when you engage, when you play the protector for your supports in your backline, or when you do duels or small skirmishes with Doomfist, you are either the one that does the spacing in order for someone else to confirm the kill, or you are confirming the kill immediately or finishing the kill. Like Doomfist damage is either you're dead, or I'm going to hit you and space you into my entire enemy, like my team, so they can kill you, similar to a Roadhog hook, right? Like you're punching them into your team or you're punching them into a wall and they're dead.
For sure.
So it's like there's no real middle ground for how Doomfist deals damage. And I really saw this effectively. If you want to watch PvP Twitch, he's been streaming a lot with his Doomfart 4th account, which is a great name for a Doomfist account. But he was showing how efficient you can be with Doomfist. Is basically you play the survivability game, you play very safe, and then when there is a kill, you jump it and they're dead, and then you can get out. So it's just like you play super safe, you make sure that kills are there, and you're basically just similar to old school Roadhog. You're perpetually making the man advantage something your enemy team has to play around, and if you're not doing that, then your team is very lackluster because it's almost like you don't exist in a 6v6.
Yeah.
Right? So
and
that's kind of how you play him. And then go ahead, Andres. Why don't you wrap us up here?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that he's kind of being controversial right now because of this playstyle, right? I feel like a lot of people have expressed their discontent about Doomfist being a hero that can one-shot like that. But I think it's still too early. People are just figuring out how to play Doomfist, and we've seen some people do some cool stuff with him. And like you said, that's a particular style that has been developing, playing him really safe and then going in for the kill as you see it. But that already requires a level of skill, right? Like it's almost like a dive. You have to be very aware who your team is pressuring, who's low, who's out of positioning. And then you also have to be very aware about going in, getting the kill, and then being able to get out. Because Doomfist is rather vulnerable. Like if you're out of your cooldowns and you happen to be in the middle of the enemy team, you're very, very killable. And likewise, if you miss your abilities and you don't land in the right place, you are so vulnerable. So it does require a certain level of skill. And more than that, you can counter him in a way by your positioning, right? Like if you're positioning in ways that is not easy for him to get to you, he's already having trouble there because like you said, his damage at medium to long range is almost laughable, and
Non-existent.
yeah, non-existent pretty much. So I'm interested to seeing how Doomfist evolves. I think that people yet have to adapt to playing against a good Doomfist. It's been out for not very long, and it's too early to complain about anything, I think, with him.
Yeah. Yeah, and then further, you know that McCree had his changes along with the Rhine bug fixes mainly, and the hammer swing increase, as well as the Zarya graviton changes rolling out. And so he did a quick thing at the bottom of this article showing that what the change has been for these heroes in their win rates, in their pick rates, and in their overall pick rate. So he says, overall, the changes have been a net, and I added, although minor, benefit to these heroes, while all three are seeing more than a 5% increase in eliminations per match on average. Reinhardt's bump is particularly good, as his eliminations per match have also gone up by more than 10% at higher tiers. So the pros are seeing that Reinhardt's usefulness is thus coming into play a little bit higher at the win rate. You could even argue that these changes, again, aren't 100% the impact, because you have to, like, I feel like Switch did an excellent job at bringing this into the Doomfist article, because that is also compounding on Doomfist's introduction to the meta is these changes. So you have to keep those things in mind, because something you didn't have before was the Graviton holding on to more people, and you have Doomfist Ultimate actually existing in competitive mode. So you have these two things that are factoring in there. And then Reinhardt's changes are fairly relevant as well, with the swing time increase for hitting things in Graviton, and also working around Doomfist in a team comp. We got the official announcement next up for Season 5. This is the end and also the beginning of Season 6. The end will be August 28th, 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Monday. And the Season 6 will be starting on August 31st, 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on a Thursday. Now, these are U.S. times, so do your things accordingly. We've linked the official statement in the show notes if you want the UTC code. It's usually UTC 0 for the day after the dates I listed, so August 29th and September 1st. Sorry, I just had a major brain fart there. So work on those Masters, Diamonds, GM pushes all the way up to the next tier. If you're down in the dumpster, fear not, you have another season on the horizon, and the off season is only a couple days.
Yeah, it's gonna be a short little
think?
break of the season. I know some people are concerned because they really want some changes to come to comp. I think that Season 5 has been a controversial season. A lot of people haven't had the best of times. A lot of toxicity and stuff has been talked about in the Reddits and all this stuff. In my own personal experience, I think the beginning of the season was tough for me. And I'm just talking about my own anecdotal experience. I know this is not the same for everyone, but the end of the season has been a lot better. I don't know if it's because all the trolls have gotten tired of arguing, or people have gotten tired of losing.
Or they're getting banned.
Or they have gotten banned. I don't know what it is, but lately my teams have been pretty decent. I've been playing both in my alt account and in my regular account, and most people have been willing to work. On my alt account, I've been practicing this new approach where I've been trying to play heroes that I'm not like super comfortable with, right? Like I've been trying to play some Doomfist. I've been trying to play a little bit of Reaper that I haven't played in a long time. Some healers and some tanks, just to kind of like practice those. And some of my other heroes are a pretty decent level right now. And like, sure enough, whenever you pick like Doomfist, or sometimes I'll pick Hanzo because I never really get to play him, and somebody will kind of like freak out a little bit and be like, oh no, can we please not get a Hanzo? And what I've been doing is immediately over voice chat, I address it. I'm like, hey man, just give it a try. If it doesn't work, I promise I'll switch to something, but have some faith in me. And so far it's worked. So people are skeptical, but they're like, all right, well, we'll see about that. And then if you do good and you show them
the first thing that people always say.
Yeah.
Unless they flame you.
Yeah. But after they see you can perform, they have been a little understanding. It's like, okay, I trust in you. Um, and everyone has been like a little nicer. So I don't know. Try comp again. Let us know how it's working out for you. Maybe you're having the same experience. Maybe you're having the complete opposite experience. I just been trying to be open when I play it, and it's been working out for me. Also, with the changes that are coming, there might be some slight change in attitude in comp, and we'll get into that in a second. But I really think that Deathmatch, which just got announced, is gonna be a great place to blow some steam.
Yeah,
and
blow some steam off.
yeah, it's just gonna be a good corner of the game that allows people to do something that they can't do right now. And I feel like it's one of the things that is making comp the way it is right now. But let's move on, and we'll talk about it in a little bit.
All right, so to continue with the hype train of OWL or Overwatch League, and Andres and I trying to slowly weave it into the show as a smaller fixture, we want to cover at least some of the most important news, as well as the news we're going to give you is not what a lot of the other podcasts might be giving to you in extent, but we're going to give it to you in kind of like only official news. So anything that Blizzard tells us about through the OWL website, we'll cover it. Because we have a lot of other news about people leaving and people joining and like teams and dropping teams and all that. We're not going to cover all the intricate details, but just that this week there are 2 new teams. There's one to go to London, England. That is Cloud9 taking the first of the EU slots. And we have a second team coming to Los Angeles. And this is owned by co-owners Stan and Josh Kroenke, who own the LA Rams of the NFL, the Colorado Rapids of the MLS, Major League Soccer and National Football League for those of you outside of the U.S., and Arsenal FC of the EPL, or English Premier League soccer team clubs. So these guys are very prestigious. They're not necessarily the direct owners of Arsenal. They're on like a board, I think, of owners for what it's worth, but let's just say y'all have some deep pockets, okay? So these guys know what they're doing as far as what their money and investments are concerned, so I'm excited to see what happens. I've talked at length about these changes with our good friend Wickadella over at Overplayed this week. I was able to guest on her show, and we talked about this for a little bit as some interesting things kind of transpiring. But we still have yet to see any regional teams from Canada, South America. I know, Andres, you were on Payload. Do you want to talk about what you talked about there about Brazil real quick as we move on?
Yeah, sure thing. I think Brazil has a lot of potential in South America. I think they have a really large gaming community, probably the largest of all of South America. They take their gaming seriously, and I feel like over there they really want to be reckoned with, or be a force to be reckoned with. They're really looking for that recognition. I think that the country as a whole already has the competitive attitude, especially with soccer. I feel like people are used to that, like supporting their team and like being able to go out there and show that they're really good at the stuff that they get into. And I feel with esports, it's kind of like the same mentality. I'm hoping to see some really good gameplay come out from there. But like we were talking around the Payload too, there's South Korea, which those guys, they're on a whole different level. I feel like
they're a hot mess.
Yeah, I feel just because of the way the country has embraced video games and the culture over there, like being a professional gamer is like respected and looked up to over there, and it's part of the culture. And not only that, but like all the internet cafes and stuff is like that is what people do, right? Like kind of like over here they go play some football or some baseball. Over there they go play at PC bangs, and like that's kind of like their sport. And that shows, man, when South Korea forms professional teams, man, they are scary.
Oh, speaking of South Korea, we need to cover Miss Geguri of the Rocks Orcas joining the team squad as being the first female Overwatch signed player in pro esports.
Nice.
So Geguri is the girl player in South Korea who was accused of cheating because she was so good at Zarya that they had to do an entire like live stream videotaping her mouse pad and her actually playing outside of the game to display that she was not cheating. She was actually dumpstering you.
She was that good.
She was that good. So if you guys want to hear me hop on the soapbox of what I think about this change, you can head over to the Cavalry podcast and listen to me just like break it down culturally and global impacts and stuff on that. But like, this is a massive thing for esports moving forward in any stretch. And I'm not saying that there aren't other esports that are doing big progressions. I know that I believe it's Splice has an entire female roster for CS:GO and also for Call of Duty, I think. So there other esports are doing this, but the fact that Overwatch is doing this in our podcast is what makes it even more relevant. So I think that this is something you guys are going to want to continue to follow and also continue to support. Please go send her a follow. Even if you don't speak Korean, just give her a follow. Show your support in any way that you can for more females to progress not only in the scene, but also just having their presence there in Overwatch, whether it be a caster, a coach, a team manager, or a player. I think that that is all good moves for esports moving forward.
Agreed.
And once we get into the once we get into the OWL, these news updates will become less frequent, and more of the strategy section about esports will be a permanent fixture on the show. But let's get into the PTR patch notes. Andres, why don't you take us away with what you think and what happened with Deathmatch? I kind of outlined this in there for you.
Sure thing. So as many of you know, Deathmatch finally got announced. I am super, super happy about this announcement. I have been wanting a Deathmatch mode pretty much since I logged into this game on the closed beta. Like the first thing I did was log in. I was like, is there a Deathmatch? Can I just go into a game, pick any hero that I want, and go to town on this hero? I just want to practice it and learn it. It's a great mode for this kind of thing. And it's also a great mode if you just want to warm up or just play the hero that you want to play without a lot of pressure from anyone else. I think that's one of the main problems that Overwatch has right now. Even in quick play or competitive, if you want to play a certain kind of hero and just practice that hero, there's a lot of pressures coming from everything, right? Like you have to be able to contest the payload or get the point. You also have to have a team composition that makes sense for everyone, right? If you just blindly pick Hanzo and your team is trying to go for something else, of course you're gonna get flamed. And it's just not very conducive for this sort of thing. But sometimes that is what you want to do, right? Sometimes that is you just want to jump into a game and play the hero that you want. And finally, here it is, the mode where you're gonna be able to do that. And not only that, but it keeps track of your progress. So let's go into some of the specifics. There's gonna be a free-for-all deathmatch. It's gonna be 8 players, and there's gonna be a scoreboard, a specialized scoreboard that'll tell you how many kills you have. And usually the first one to get 20 kills will win that round. So it keeps track of your effectiveness, and there's like an objective to compete for, but the objective is only kills. You get 1 point for kill, and you get -1 point for falling off the map, which I think is kind of like standard rules in most deathmatch FPSs kind of thing. If you kill yourself, you lose a point. And then there's also gonna be team deathmatch, where instead you're gonna have 2 teams of 4 versus 4, and it's gonna be the first person to get 30 kills. Here's the catch: Mercies can resurrect to deduct points from the enemy team score. So for as many people as you resurrect, you deduct those points from your enemy's scoreboard, which is kind of cool. It gives some strategy to the actual mode. There's gonna be specialized maps. You can't play deathmatch on every map, which makes sense because some maps are not too conducive to this. I know for a fact that they have reworked the spawn system so that you no longer just spawn on the regular spawn points, but I'm pretty sure that you're gonna spawn all over the map, different locations, so that you're not surrounded by enemies as soon as you spawn. But the maps that you're gonna be able to play are Hanamura, Horizon Lunar Colony, Temple of Anubis, Volskaya, Dorado, Eichenwald, Hollywood, Kings Row, and all of the new 3v3 maps like Black Forest, Castillo, Eco Point, and Necropolis.
Now, important to note is the 3v3 maps are team deathmatch only. So the other maps that are largely like the regular maps, the 2CPs and the Dorado and the Eichenwald and the King's Rows, those maps are going to be for free for all. Okay, and then the other thing that is really important to note is these are in the arcade if you want to find them on PTR. And if you remember, in arcade every week they reset a standard set of 3 loot boxes that you can earn for 9 total wins. So every 3 wins in arcade, regardless of whatever game mode it is, you can get a loot box out of it for free. So if you want to get the loot boxes and you're playing, you're like, well, how do I get a loot box in free for all deathmatch because it's just me? Do I have to get first place? Well, no, you actually only need to get top 4. If you get top 4, you break even. You get you get credit for the win. So it's pretty cool.
That's right.
And the big news is Chateau Guillard is now a brand new map set in France. And this map is very, very cool. I'll just read what they listed on the website. Chateau Guillard is located near Annecy in southern France. For hundreds of years, it was the estate of the influential Guillard family, until it gradually fell into disrepair after the family's power waned in the decades after the revolution. Recently, the chateau has found a new owner, the Talon agent Widowmaker, who has returned to her family's ancestral home.
Ooh.
So if you forget, Amélie is her name, and Guillard is actually not her blood family's estate. This is her assassinated husband's before she went into Talon. So this is technically her estate through marriage. She inherited this, and this map is really cool. There's a cellar, a wine cellar. There is a lot of health pack locations. There's a lot of really cool verticality areas, and I really enjoyed playing Hanzo and Sombra on this map. Even just goofing around with it, I thought it was really powerful. But yeah, Andres has told me, but in the pre-show that he hadn't got a chance to jump in here. There's also, I think, 2 jump pads. They're really small.
Oh, cool.
And they're green little beacons. And there's a couple like areas of scaffolding or like a really, really awesome. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to back up. Sorry. Guillard is Amélie's actual blood. I mixed this up. Guillard is actually Amélie's blood estate. This is not.
Well, I think
LaCroix.
I think that Amélie, or Widowmaker, as she's known now, she was married to this guy. His name was Gerard Lacroix, something like that. I think. Or yeah, and then they were married, and that was like the place, I guess, where they would hang out before it went down. I'm excited to see a little bit about the lore, because Widowmaker's story, that's like some Game of Thrones level of stuff right there. That's like some like
the map is beautiful.
Family assassination, some brainwashing, and turning good people into bad people. That's like a whole like soap opera right there.
Sleeper agent. This is some 24 levels soap opera, yeah. But like this is really cool. There's actually like paint areas like where it's like unfinished, where they're talking about how it came into disrepair. So it's kind of like Talon got there and I was like trying to clean up the wine cellar with some broken stuff in the basement, and then they go to the main floor and the second floor and they're trying to like paint areas. So there's paint lying around and like all kinds of just tools. And then there's like a whole library area with like some possible Easter eggs on like computers and a map and another office room. There's even a giant statue outside, and the landscape outside of it is set in the fall, and it is absolutely gorgeous. This castle or massive estate is like set in the middle of the water, so like the entire outside of the building you can fall off the map. So you're just basically in this isolated spot. It's really cool.
Nice. I'm excited to try it out, especially because this map is designed specifically for deathmatch. So it's all about you versus everyone else and how you can make the best of this map. So very, very cool. I'm so glad that they're adding so many different maps with a bunch of different flavors. Some that are small, some that are big, some that are like for deathmatch, some that are for all these different modes. It gives the game a lot of variety, and I can't wait till this is live and we can maybe create some Omnic Lab servers and we can all get in there. See who's the top dog.
Yeah. So, Andres, why don't we take the quick impact of this strategically to how this affects comp? Because that's something that I feel like is not really discussed too much, and you brought it up in the beginning of the show. Why don't you take us away with that?
Yeah, sure thing. I think that this is gonna be a great mode for what we already said. Being able to just practice one hero. If you just want to learn one hero, you're able to go in here and just play it to your heart's content. Nobody is gonna blame you for picking it. Nobody's gonna flame you for picking like Hanzo or Widowmaker. You can do whatever you want. You can practice for as long as you want. You can warm up in this mode. It's a great mode to just go in and get your muscle memory back. Or at the end of the night, after you've had a terrible game, you don't want to play with people. You just go in here. You play for yourself. You blow some steam. So I think it's just a nice alternative that the game didn't have before. A lot of the modes in this game are very team oriented, and
it's like a catch-22 though, because like you know how when you're playing in the game. Sorry,
no,
are you
go
there?
ahead. Yeah, I'm
Or did
here.
I lose you? Okay, I thought I lost you for a second. Sorry,
No,
my
sorry.
internet
I was
like,
I was just like
freaked me
trying
out.
to organize my thoughts and trying to think what to say. I was just
Okay.
trying to say like the game is very team oriented, and like that is great. I love team oriented games. Those like elevate the skill ceiling, but it's also real life and real people. And the reality is that not everyone gets along all the time, and there's feelings and emotions involved. So always having to play with other people sometimes leads to very high tensions, which we see them in comp all the time when people lose their shit or start flaming other people, start trolling because they've had enough of other people. And I think it's good to also have a mode where you can be dependent on just yourself.
And we don't know how competitive this will be. I have a feeling that since the game at its core is always going to be team objective based esports, that this is not really going to get a whole lot of other attention outside of the casual scene or just like fan service, like for the fans that really want this. Because the heroes and the maps at their core are made to be non-individualistic focused, right? They're made to have a team impact and have team-based kits to do things. So
Right.
for that reason, I don't think it's going to be that competitive, but I do
I don't think
think
it's
that
gonna replace the regular competitive modes. No, not at all.
Right.
But it's just
Not at all.
like, you know, like in soccer, for example, you have really big competitive leagues where you have to go in with your team of 11 and hopefully you practice and all this stuff. But then you can also take a ball out into the street and just kick it around yourself just because you want to practice and get better with that ball, or you just call in your neighbors and you play like a couple pickup games. Like this is what I'm talking about. Overwatch
Yeah, small nets
needs
and all
that too.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, Overwatch needs modes where you can just be able to go in and experience the game without having to do the full-blown rules, full-blown team kind of thing.
And I think there's a lot of people that are in comp just to shoot people, and they don't like the whole quick play aspect because they're like, well, it's not competitive. Well, if they have something that is similar feel of competitive, like Deathmatch, I can feel like you're going to be pulling those people out of quick play. You're going to be pulling those people also out of comp, and they're going to be playing what they want to play in Deathmatch.
Exactly.
And I think that that is something that you're going to see, not just for the reasons that Andres was saying, but you're also going to see a quality of life shift so that the people that are in that environment where they just want to play their Hanzo for days in, day out, and that's all they want to do is miss shots, that they're not going to feel like they're going to at least be able to figure out that they can't hit shots if they go into deathmatch for starters. So
yeah.
But I think we can move on. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but this is just I wanted to make sure that we spent time here because this is really important.
I think so too, and I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, the next thing we got here is the couple changes we mentioned, but now we have confirmed this is on the PTR. So Junkrat's Concussive Mine now has 2 charges, so you can hold 2 mines, and Riptire moves 30% faster, and actually no longer the time limit goes up when you're or goes down when you're climbing walls. So effectively, you have a little bit longer of a cast or a use time if you're climbing a wall with the Riptire, and it goes faster. Wow.
We know
this
PvP Twitch is going to be very happy.
This is massive. Like, you can one-shot so many people now at medium range. It's unreal. And on top of that, the Riptire having a little bit longer time when you're climbing a wall seems way better, because it always felt like when you're climbing the wall, even if you drop, it's just like feels bad, man, because you just like wasted like 3 seconds going
Oh, for
up a
sure.
wall and you can't scale it and it just drops and you have like 1 second left in your ultimate because you're trying not to get it to blow up. I still feel like there's some big key issues with Riptire being still the weakest thing, and I don't think this is going to be enough for the Riptire in and of itself, but they're being very conservative to have something there. Oh, snap. We just got rated by PvP Twitch at the top of mentioning him. That's hilarious.
That's hilarious. As soon as we start talking about Junkrat, here it comes, all the crew.
Here it comes. Oh, the Simba emotes. Can I get the Simba emotes, people? Congratulations to PvP Twitch and getting his new puppy, Nala. So I just have to say that. But thank you guys for joining in the raid. I love it when we get raid live raided. It's great. But let's keep moving. We got Orisa ultimate change, or not ultimate change, fusion driver changed, where the primary fire is actually going 20% faster, and her protective barrier is going to be up in size by 20%. Now, I don't think that a lot of people are realistically looking at this in the 100% rate, the same way, because I've heard people are like, oh, it's 20% bigger, it's going to be, you know, wider and all that. Well, yeah, it's partially true, but 20% larger is more of a diagonal thing. So it could actually be a lot wider than you might think, because a 20% change affects the entirety of it, not just like the width and the height, or just the height, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like they're messing around with the shape of it a little bit.
Right. And in addition to that, they also said that the shape is going to be, quote, allowing for more coverage from enemies that are below the barrier. So I'm not quite sure what that means.
I think that sometimes when you would place it, especially around the edge, or sometimes on the payload and stuff, it would fall, but it would like look a little bit how do I say this? Like, it would be a little bit off the edge, and the bottom there would be a huge hole that you can shoot through, because the barrier didn't have like, it wasn't concave. It was just kind of like it fell on the floor. So sometimes you could angle it in a way that it had a huge hole in the bottom. I think that's what they're trying to address. Orisa changes are very subtle, but I think really nice for her. I think they're not going to throw it over the edge. But Orisa is already a very solid tank, especially in the right team comp. And if you're playing it against a team that struggles against range. But these changes are really nice.
Yeah, I do think that the size of the barrier is an issue at a lot of times. I feel like it's still a little awkward. I think it has to do with the curls, you know what I mean, on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like that. And I do think that the projectile speed thing is a big issue with dealing with Pharahs as a whole, as well as longer range. It's really tough to land those shots. It's almost like they move, I believe they actually move slower than Zen destruction orbs, like primary fire and secondary fire. I feel
the Zen orbs are pretty fast. Slower. I would say it's slower than like the Diva or Mercy rockets, or like around that speed.
Yeah, so I think that they can keep moving some things here in Orisa's favor. But as I said on another show with Cavalry, I think Orisa needs something shifted with her her golden stand ability. It's not Halt. Halt is the one where it's like the little orb. But, I mean, there's just so many little tweaks. I feel like they need to just safely, slowly roll out this change, then this change, then this change, and then eventually Orisa will be in the right place. I think that's the way they're going about these changes now, instead of the let's change everything type of, you know, issue that they've had in the past. But let's move forward here. We got the Roadhog change we talked about on our last show, which is take a breather. It can be used at full speed and not stopping, or not a reduced speed while you're walking. And it can also reduce the damage taken by 50%. And Ginger Slayer said that he thought, in his estimation, that this would not be enough of a change. And Andres and I were trying to play the devil's advocate and kind of see if there's anything else that we can discuss about this that has to do with survivability being maybe a different way to play Roadhog. And I will confirm that the 50% reduced damage to a Hanzo arrow to the dome was tested on the Chateau with me and Wicked from Overplayed. And Wow, that 50% is a lot of damage reduction.
It
It's a
is.
lot. It's insane. Like, he
50%
doesn't
is a
even take a
huge
fourth
amount.
of his damage.
Not only that, you're
It's
healing. You're
unreal.
healing while you have the 50% up
Right.
too. So it almost feels more than that. Just remember the Bastion days when he would become a
Yep.
turret and he would reduce his damage by 50%. It was almost broken to the point where they had to address that fix really, really fast. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that Roadhog is going to be broken, not by any means, but I am saying that
No.
this 50% damage reduction is very significant. And if you are able to time it right, like if you use that ability when the hurt is coming, when you see the bullets are about to fly to your face, if you pop this, not only will you mitigate a ton of damage, you will more than likely heal to full, and you'll be able to walk away freely while you're doing this. So that it's even like
Right.
more
So you're reducing
survivability there.
like 3 different sources of damage, right? You're healing the damage you're incurring. You're moving to avoid more damage as you're incurring it in order to dodge, and all of the damage you're taking is reduced by half. So
Yeah.
it's like 1, 2, 3. I try to kill me. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So like, if you're gonna go against anything, I think Roadhog's just gonna only have an issue when you have something to interrupt this. So you're
Yeah.
going to be looking for more interrupt type abilities, not necessarily like firing into him, unless you're Reaper. I think Reaper or an enemy Roadhog
And
maybe, but
the thing is, this is not gonna make him back to his old hooking days where he was just like hook him and cook him, just bring him here, one shot kind of thing. And that's why he was so strong, right? He would just get picks, and that
right.
was his main thing. I think that now is changing to where like the hook is still kind of a threat, right? Like good Roadhogs that know
Oh,
how
for
to aim
sure.
it can still hook you and one shot you, or like do a little combo with the shot and punch and still kill you, if not outright put you at like lethal range so that somebody else can finish you off. Um, but his main usability is not gonna come from that. You're not gonna be constantly relying on Roadhog to hook other people, but he is gonna become extremely hard to kill, I think, if in the right hands. Like right now, Roadhog is just a very predictable hero. And I love going, for example, as Tracer against him because you only need to wait until
The
his
battery.
hook is down, and then you know that he's gonna have to go heal somebody or somewhere as long as you're pressuring him. And as soon as he heals, he's one of the most vulnerable heroes in this game. Like you can literally do anything to that guy, and the heal is usually not enough because he's taking so much damage while he's doing this because he's just standing still, taking everything to the face that it's almost like negligible. But this is no longer the
Yep.
case. So I think his survivability is gonna shoot through the roof, which might add some usability to the hero in another sense, right? Like if you constantly have a Roadhog
Yep.
that won't die and still has a dangerous hook, like that makes a difference.
For sure. Absolutely. The last change here is Widowmaker. Grapple hook goes down to 8 seconds, was 12 seconds. So this is a 4-second reduction, which I believe is 20% reduction. And then Venom Mine now actually has an added utility of when a target is now ticking down their damage, they will also be visible through walls. So this is an identifier similar to your wall hack ability, just applying to the target that
Yeah.
happens to get Venom Mined.
It's kind of like her
Now,
version of
Andres,
Sonic Arrow.
yeah, I heard you talking about the payload where Widowmaker Mine is basically the tickle machine or a little fart cannon that sits down and doesn't really do a whole lot. It
Yeah,
just like confirms kills on tracers that are
that's what it
too
feels like to
that you
me.
miss a headshot.
Yeah, it's just like this little fart that explodes on you, and it probably just smells a little bad. So it does a little bit of damage. It makes you cough a little bit, but that's about it. It might alert you of incoming flanks, but it's obvious. It's honestly not that effective. It's easily destroyed, and
Right.
it just feels so lackluster sometimes when you have that ability, right? Like she's a strong
Yep.
hero, but is based on her primary fire, and the rest of her
Yeah.
abilities are meh. Like the hook is cool, but it has a long cooldown that is not. You can't really use it that much. This changes are awesome. They definitely make her kit a
Very
little
much
more
agree.
relevant. You can use your mine a little more strategically. Now you can use your hook a little more freely. You can definitely do those crazy jump shots a
Oh,
little more, and gives it a little
hook
more
is
survivability in general, I think.
the grapple hook change, guys, is huge. Like you can use it to get to places, and then like as soon as you've used it, like if you think about how long it takes you to extend the hook after the ability is used, and then like to fly from point A to point B at a long range, by the time you hit the height of your hook, if you're going straight up, or the distance of your hook, you've already expended a full second. So it's effectively 11 seconds from that moment. But if you're getting up to the height, you get set up, you're getting ready to shoot, that's like 2.5, 3 seconds. So by that time, you're just kind of waiting for the next 5. You're going to have a lot of survivability, a lot of repositioning capabilities. And the best widows that are out there, aka like you guys in Korea and Taimu and Kefri, these guys are going to be using their hooks to just reposition, so that people just always have to keep guessing, where is the widow? Am I dead or not? Those type of moments are going to happen a lot more frequently. And I really hope that we can see a little bit more Widowmaker, at least in the pro scene, because I feel like she's getting a little like splits here and there on strategy, and we haven't had a Widow player on the show yet, but I would love to have someone on to talk about these changes, because I feel like they're really big. The last couple things here are a little smaller changes. We have our user interface. There is one change. There's the outline opacity option now for your reticles. So there's a little black outline outside of the reticle that you can actually change now in the customization options, which is a little odd. But maybe if you make the reticle itself transparent and then add an outline, you can have some really interesting and dynamic different ways of producing a crosshair in the game. So more power to you if you can figure out some cool things there. I know people love more customization options, so I'd like to see and highlight them when they come up. There's a lot of bug fixes you're going to want to check on the notes to go check out, but the 2 things that I saw that were the most relevant were, there's a bug that was fixed for Doomfist Rocket Punch that would prevent it from connecting with an enemy player when they were going up an incline. And also, there's another bug that caused the announcer to say, traveling to Dorado, every time you went into Castillo. And this has been an issue for a really long time in 3D series. So
Technically, they're not wrong,
they finally
right?
figured that out. I mean, they're not 100% wrong, but they're not exactly
Castillo
right
is
either.
in Dorado, so I mean, technically the announcer is not wrong. All right, but
Right.
we're running a little bit out of time over here. Do you want to jump into our small little strategy segment that we have today?
Yeah, so the patch that hit our servers has to do with a lot of cosmetics and skins, but as you know, we're a strategy podcast, so we're going to go with a really fun environment, and Andres has been doing a lot of back-end work on playing competitive Lucioball, and I've been watching some videos and playing myself. So we got a little bit of some tips for you in how to play Lucioball and how to get a little bit better in the competitive mode before the season ends.
Yeah, so it's a good opportunity. I think Lucioball is pretty fun, and especially this year that it now offers competitive points, I think it's worth it to at least know how to play it, maybe at least complete your placement matches, because it's literally free competitive points as long as you complete those placement matches, so you might as well. But here are our tips for playing Lucioball. The first one, and I like to call it the golden rule of Lucioball, and this comes from Rocket League because, as you know, it's basically the same thing. If you start the furthest behind, you should stay as the keeper. And I think that this is like the golden rule you should always
Common
keep
courtesy.
in mind. Yeah. Not only like common courtesy, it just will prevent you from losing so many easy points. If you're the furthest behind, you won't be able to reach the ball before anyone else reaches the ball. Like everyone else literally has a better chance of reaching the ball than you. And if by some reason that ball gets thrown into your court and there's nobody there in the field, then you've just given away a free goal. And I feel like this is kind of like common sense. Most people do this anyway, but I often see a lot of people who start out as keepers and then just kind of like start drifting and leave the net alone. If you're playing with a team and you got a friend that is awesome at being keeper, then you can make the switch. But even if you're playing with a friend that plays keeper, the person who's last stays there, make sure that nothing gets in, and then you can make the swap later on. I like the way I like playing it, especially if I'm solo queuing, is whoever is last stays keeper for that round until somebody scores a goal, and then you can switch.
I will say that the other thing is you're going to be mentioning this a little at last, but when you have an ultimate ability use, a lot of the times the keepers can end up racking up the ultimate sooner. So what you're going to want to do is communicate with your teammates. Hey, I have my ultimate. Can we swap? I'm going to go up. You know, those type of moments.
Yeah,
It's a little bit different
absolutely.
than soccer in that stretch, in that it's kind of like a mixture of real soccer when you're playing like FIFA on your consoles, or out just kicking a ball around in Rocket League that way, because it is 3v3 and you have a lot more of the rules that abide by there. But the ultimate use is what makes the game way different.
For sure. Let's talk a little bit about the positioning, since you're bringing up it's kind of like soccer and stuff. I think that the positioning in this game is rather loose. Like, there's not this guy should always be here, this guy should always be here. But in general, I think it's good to distribute your team across the field. You want to have a person on the net being your goalie. You want to have a person kind of like in your side of the field, in between the two jump pads that are on your side of the field. And then you want to have a person that's kind of like your striker in the middle of the two jump pads that are on the enemy field and maybe on the goalie's court. If you're able to distribute your team like that, you're able to cover most of the space. And these positions are like very relative. I think that most of it is defined by the way that your team starts. Like, there's usually a person who can reach the ball before everyone else. That person usually should be the one who moves forward. The person who's second closest to the ball should be the person who kind of stays like midfield in your area, and then the person who's last should always stay around the field. And like I said, if you're playing with a team and you got a guy that's like a super good striker, you can make the switch as needed. But at least at the start of the round, it's just good to distribute yourself that way, because that way you're covering the most ground and you give the enemy team the least amount of opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, and the positioning is going to be really, really crazy in how it overlaps with your team shape. I know we mentioned that a long time ago with regards to real competitive, but team shape is huge in playing soccer in general. And if you guys want, like, I have a big background in playing soccer all the way up to university, and the biggest thing you want to understand is you want to try to get as close to a real traditional sized isosceles triangle, not like the obtuse weird triangle shape, not anything, but all the points of the triangle need to be as clear as the play button, if that makes sense. You want to make sure that you're always going to be equidistant from each other, the only exception being the goalkeeper. But that's kind of the idea, is from midfield or from the goalkeeper, you want to have the exact those 2 points in your mind as 1 point on the triangle, so that you're never overloading the ball with more than one player on your team, one player on their team. Otherwise, when the ball squirts out, wherever it may go, you're ready in order to pick it up. And I feel like a lot of my goalkeepers out there are not good enough at reacting to when the ball squirts out and you actually have a good team shape up in the front, because you need to be able to come up to the front and boop it out. Now, booping it out is going to be a little bit differently in your positioning, because you can get punished for using your right click. If they're relatively close, they can follow back with a shotgun blast and just dump it into your net. So sometimes when you're pushing it back up the field, you're going to want to just use your left click or your primary fire, aka the punch and the melee, and just push it forward just up to the next guy. And you can take your time, because generally nobody else is going to be there contesting you. So just keep that in mind when you're positioning. You play or watch maybe a couple indoor soccer clips and see how their teams are shaped, or maybe look some coaching practices. But the triangle tip is one of the biggest things that I'll give out there, is just don't overload the ball. Don't be a ball chaser. Be a shape former.
That's a good way of describing it. Don't be a ball chaser, in the sense that if there's already a teammate going for that ball, let them get the ball, and instead go cover an area where you think the ball might end up with, where nobody else in your team is, because the chances is that if the ball flies into that area, you can capitalize on it rather than letting an enemy capitalize on it. So you want to cover as much ground as you can. You want to let your teammates like do their thing in their area, and you cover other area or cover other teammates as well as the goal. Now, talking about being able to cover the right areas, getting around the field has its own little trick to it. I feel like you move rather slow. Your speed boost is in a really long cooldown. And if you want to just like ride from one side of the field to the other, it's going to take you a really long time. And you should really, really use the jump pads and the outside walls to get around, because this gives you a huge, huge, huge movement speed that you can abuse at any time. I've been trying to get good about, if I want to get from one side of the field to the other, I just jump on a wall, I ride it, I gain a huge amount of speed, and then from the wall, you can jump into a jump pad, for example. And from one jump pad, you can jump into another jump pad, and so on and so forth. You can basically get from one side of the field to the other in a matter of seconds without needing any speed boost whatsoever. It's a great way, if you're close to the ball and an enemy team is chasing as well, to get there before them. Let's say if you're just both running to the ball. If you use a jump pad to jump to the ball, you will probably get to the ball before they do. You do have to be careful with this. You don't want to be using the jump pads when you're too close to the ball, as you might miss it completely. And that is a no-no. You will always want to be able to connect with the ball if it's at your range. You got to practice that a little bit, but definitely using the wall, the jump pads and the wall to get around will definitely increase your chances of being able to hit those balls constantly.
And you can get the speed boost. It's more effective to use your speed boost as you're on the wall, so that when you jump off of the wall, then your speed boost momentum is carried with you onto the jump pad, onto the air, so that your momentum stays even if the debuff is not. That's how what Andres is also mentioning there is a big key. Now, I will say that if you're on the defensive or the offensive end and you're on the corners where the circle jump pads are, if you take the circle jump pad to what I call the 6 yard box, or 6 meter box for you EU people, and the rest of the real world outside of the United States, you hit that area, you have a jump pad on the goal and inside of the goal. So if you go from the circle jump pad, you can go without any speed. You can go from that pad to the goal pad to the other circle pad and then hit the wall from there. So you can go wall, pad, 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 wall, if that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure you
can go all the way across horizontally.
I'm pretty sure you can go from the left pad to the right pad in one jump too, if you haven't tried it.
You can, but you have to have the speed boost in order to do it from the wall, leaving the wall, in order to get the momentum for it. Because I was trying that as well. It's really close.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
right,
like,
so
go ahead. Let's keep going.
Oh, I was just saying, we talk about positioning and getting around the field. Super important. You basically want to be at the right place at the right time, and you want to be able to get around the field as much as you can. But now let's talk about hitting the wall, or hitting the ball, and properly hitting the ball, because I think that not everyone is aware of how you can hit the ball, and it took me a minute to kind of like get used to it. It's actually easier than you would think. Your right click, your little boop thing, is very aimable, as well as your left click. But basically, the ball will go whatever you're aiming. And I think that a lot of people miss this. Let's say the ball is coming at you through the floor. A lot of people just hit it straight and the ball just goes flying, or it doesn't even go flying. It just goes back through the floor and sometimes lands on an enemy teammate. An easy way, for example, that you can prevent this is you can lob the ball. If the ball is coming at you at any angle and you hit the ball while looking up, the ball will fly in that direction. Even if it's coming at you from the floor, you can just aim up and you will lob the ball away. And this is a great defensive trick. Like if the ball just happens to be around your court and you see the enemies coming at you, you can just lob the ball above them and clear the whole thing. People have been getting a little better about aiming the balls, but sometimes you can even have like these two like keeper battles where both keepers are just like lobbing the ball
so annoying
from one to the other. And I found that this starts happening around like the platinum level. Like both keepers kind of like, okay, I know how to aim the ball now. I know how to clear it, and they start doing this. And one of the things that you can really abuse as striker, for example, is wait for your keeper to lob the ball for you. Be around one of the enemy jump pads And as soon as you see the ball coming to you, you can jump towards it and try to give it an extra boost, an extra little kick, or kind of like mess the other keeper's
Sure.
boost. And you can kind of like counter that a little bit in that way. But you should get good at aiming with a ball. The ball also doesn't have to be that close to you for you to be able to boop it. You kind of have to kind of get a good grasp for the distance, because it can't be too far away from you. It's kind of a weird distance where you don't want to wait till the last second to boop it, but you also don't want to do it too soon. You'll get the hang of it the
Given your
more.
input lag and
Yeah.
your ping.
Yeah, exactly. You'll get the hang of it the more that you play it, but just know that the ball will fly where you're aiming it at. And it also depends on at what angle you hit the ball, of course, but more importantly,
Right.
aim to the place where you want the ball to go. So if you want the ball to go to the top left corner of the field, aim your little booster top left and then hit the ball and it will fly over there.
Now, there's one exception to this, Andres, where you can actually aim down when the ball is on the ground. And the ball will go down, like you said, it's aimed down, but because of that, it will go straight into the ground and thus bounce up. So it's almost like a two-shot where it hits the ground immediately in front of you and goes straight up. So this can be like a quick like spacing technique that I've used a couple times to get it to go up a little bit, but not too far. So this is like if you want to get a shorter pass rather than like a longer one, and you can't really do this with the melee. It doesn't work with that. So if you want to do a little bit longer and you don't want to go straight with the melee, you can lob it by aiming down.
Yeah. And talking about the melee and your boop, you should use this in appropriate situations. I would say most of the time, if you want to do a shot to the goal or you want to clear the ball, you should use your boop for sure. But your melee has a lot of uses as well. One of the uses I found is if I'm trying to contest a ball, for example, like I'm going to get a ball and an enemy player is going to get it as well, and it's kind of unsure who's going to hit it first, I usually start with the boop, but I immediately follow it up with a melee. And sometimes what this happens is I'm able to boop it, but the other person boops it too. But because I do a melee like right after it, I basically get like the last say on the ball, and you're able to kind of like win that altercation. There's no pause in between, so you can boop and melee immediately, kind of like doing like a double hit, which is pretty useful in certain situations.
Interesting.
And then also use
The
your.
same.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say the same way. I was reading and watching some other things that was saying you should do that in the other way around, where you can go to a contested ball, and if you have an open shot, go ahead and punch it, and it will punch towards the goalkeeper, who will then boop, and then once they hit the ball, you can follow that up by your boop, and they've already used theirs, and you have more momentum going in for a shot.
You can try it that way too. If you do it that way, there will be a pause. If you melee and then boop, it doesn't do it immediately. So it depends on like what you're trying to achieve.
So you're talking about the speed.
Yeah. If you're trying to like contest the ball, it can sometimes be good to do it this way. If you're trying to like force a trick shot, like booping it to the enemy, waiting for them to boop, and then booping it right back, you can do it the way that you were saying. There's a lot of tricks you can use to trick people into getting the goal. The melee is also really good for dribbling. Like if you are not necessarily wanting to throw the ball really far away, but you are kind of like in a position where you're kind of effective. A lot of the times I found, like if I'm midfield close to the wall, for example, and I have kind of a clear shot, but an enemy is coming towards me, sometimes what I do is I'll just melee it against the wall so that it bounces off the wall, kind of dodging the incoming enemy. And then after that, you can boop it straight to the field. So you can kind of like play with the wall, play with your teammates. The melee is a great way to throw the ball not too far away. So you can do this kind of tricks where you still keep the ball around your area, but you just kind of reposition it as needed. It's a great way to kind of like do a little dribbling there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You can also just like, if you're wondering, you can block the ball by touching it. You don't actually need to do anything. Your body will block the ball as an entity. Yep. So if you're a goalkeeper or you're going up against the goalkeeper who's trying to boop it and you hit the jump pad, you want to keep the ball there, but you don't necessarily want to shoot. That's a good tactic. So you can hit the jump pad, block the ball, drop down, and as you're following melee or as you're falling, then go down. So it's kind of an interesting tactic, but I haven't seen people use it too much because people are really trigger happy. So maybe it's something you want to try.
Yeah, the last couple of things I want to say about Lucioball is timing. Of course, you have to practice it, being able to tell where the ball is going to go and position yourself accordingly so that you are in a good position to shoot the ball once it hits the floor, or being able to ride a wall and jump into a lob ball and be able to hit it. It requires a little bit of muscle memory and timing, but the more you play it, you'll get the hang of it. It's kind of important too. If you want to get really good at Lucioball, you really have to gain this timing. The only way you can get it is by playing it. So go ahead and spam some Lucio games there. And the other two things is your ultimate. We haven't talked too much about your ultimate. You gain ultimate by hitting the ball. That's why sometimes keepers can build it so fast, especially if they're in a lob war where you're just spamming saves all over the place. You can really build up your ultimate like that. Or if you're constantly contesting the ball up front, you will also gain a lot of ultimate from that. I'm pretty sure you gain ultimate slowly, but you definitely
Just
gain
anything you
chunks.
touch the ball.
As long as you're touching the ball, yeah, it'll give you some ultimate. I don't know if it's different between your boop and your melee, or if they give you the same amount. Um,
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure if getting a save gives you a little more. I gotta do a little more research in that. But generally, just interacting with the ball builds your ultimate the fastest. And I think that because of this, you shouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna go touch the ball all the time, leave my position, leave the goal open. Like those things
Right.
are still very important. You should find a good middle point where you're trying to interact with the ball as much as you can, but still covering the right places. And the last one
Yeah.
is communication. And this one is kind of like a no brainer. If you communicate with your team, you're going to have a bigger advantage. You don't have to narrate everything that you're doing or all of your intentions, but just key things. For example, when you have your ultimate and you're ready to use it, just let your team know, because honestly, having two people using ultimate at the same time is rather a waste of ultimate unless it's like the end of the game. It's generally better to have one person ulting at a time. Because the truth is, if you're ulting, that one person is gonna be able to get to the ball, whatever it is, no matter what. And that one person is usually enough to either score a goal or nobody else on the enemy team is gonna be able to contest it. So just having like two people doing that at the same time can be rather wasteful, because one of them is not gonna be able to interact with the ball that much. So that's kind of my tip. Let your teammates know when you're gonna ulti. If you're the keeper, like you said, Rob, and you have your ultimate up, it's a good idea to try to use your ultimate as soon as possible rather than hugging it in the game. Convert it to a goal as soon as you can so you can start building that next ultimate. It gives you a huge advantage. So if you're the keeper, for example, and you have ultimate, just let your teammates know, hey, I'm going to use ultimate. Somebody cover the goal. I'm going to go nuts. Stuff like this.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add?
The ultimate makes you go wicked fast, so be careful.
Yeah.
You basically can infinitely just right click your spam. So if you want to like melee a couple times before you use your ult, if you have the ball, or you want to contest the ball that's in the corner, it's usually a good idea. I like to do a little bit more of a hockey strategy once I have the ball in my sights. I like to use my ultimate, use the boop to hit it in the side and just run the wall and dump it in, and then go straight for the net as it's dumping in. And then you can just like melee boop, 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 because your boop cooldown is like nothing. And then you can even ride the wall and go like quadruple the speed and then jump off the wall. And you have so much momentum, you go to like the freaking center of the room in like a second. So use the walls because you can get wherever you want to go really, really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think that'll
But I
do
think
it
that's
for our Lucio Ball tips. Hope you guys could gain something out of it. The game is pretty simple. It's mostly getting used to the physics of it and being able to hit your shots, being able to aim them well, being in the right positions. There's not too much science to it. I know that some people eventually will get insanely good at this, and we'll see some crazy flying Lucios doing some awesome shots. But in general, it's a really fun mode. I don't think there's that much competition. It's rather easy to get to diamond or master if you put in a little bit of time into it. So get those sweet competitive points and let us know how you did.
Awesome. This is the part of the show, not the part of the show where we go into our iTunes reviews. So this week we have J Ryan DL34 from USA. We have XX Nix the Star from Australia. From USA. We have Nugio5 from Australia, and not Muad'Dib. I hope I said that right, and it's not like a French word I'm just butchering, but this is our first review from France. So thank you guys for your iTunes reviews. We had 5 this week, and Andres, you want to talk to the fine folks at home as to why iTunes reviews are so important?
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to support the show, the cheapest and easiest way is to leave an iTunes review. It helps with our visibility on the iTunes store. It helps other people know what they're getting into. And we really appreciate it. We love reading the reviews. They warm our hearts. Some of them are pretty good feedback as well. So if you want to say something in the show that you want to see or add it or change, you can also do it through there. All, of course, constructive criticism, please. No offensive stuff. But yeah, it's a great way to support us.
And we also have some people over at on patreon.com/omniclab where you guys can support the show financially. If you're thinking about wanting to help us with our production costs or improve our production as a whole, as well as help Andres and I finance going to these crazy expensive events like BlizzCon or DreamHack. It's more expensive for some people, Andres, than others because I don't live by the DreamHack Atlanta venue.
Hey, nobody forced you to go to Japan.
That's very true. Except for my job. I mean, screw that. But, if you guys want to support the show and help us out a lot, we are still actively appreciating and also still actively looking for more patrons. The special folks this week are new on the squad is Not Muad'Dib, the one who left the French iTunes review, also joined the squad as a diamond review. So thank you so much. And we also have Stephen M. and CKM also edited up to the platinum level. Hopefully we can take advantage of your VOD review here coming up pretty soon. I know, Andres, you did one for one of our diamond patrons this week about his tracer play on console. So if you're on console, we still do the VOD reviews as long as you can find a way to submit them. And the diamond patrons this week are, besides Not Muad'Dib, is Ben W, Ice Weasel, Hannibal Snowden, Lysome, Magic, Michael Kritz, RC Crispy, Sketchy Nonsense Podcast, Ricky Ticky, Tragic, Zach, and Trinium. Thank you guys so much for your support at the top level. I know it's a big sacrifice as well as something that you do as a labor of love, as well as all of our patrons down there that would just look like a laundry list and not be very entertaining to listen to all of the names. But if you guys want to support the show, it does help us out a lot. Like, you have no idea how much this is helping me get to BlizzCon. It's such a huge deal to us over at Omnic Lab. And Andres and I were even talking in the pre-show about after BlizzCon, what are we going to do with our Patreon finances? We have like this thing and this thing and this thing. And we want to upgrade this and that. So we have a lot of things on the laundry list of stuff to improve the show, especially in regards to our live production. We're really excited to do some of those things for you, given that the Patreon stuff keeps rolling in. Wow, this show has been great. Andres, let's take a quick second before we show people where they can find us to talk about our communities that we've been involved in this week. Why don't you start with talking about the Payload?
Sure. I had the pleasure of guesting on the Payload podcast yesterday with our friend Jimmy, DJ Tyrant. Their host, one of them is traveling all over the place. The other one's taking a little break, so they need a little help over there. We had a pretty good conversation on the esports scene and all the new changes that are coming in. So make sure to give them a follow or check it out if you guys want to keep the conversation going. I know that, Rob, you've been super busy going all over the place.
Yeah, this week I had there's a national holiday today in my time on Friday. And then the days that I work, I had 2 days that I have to take off because I work too many days in the month given my contract, so that I have to take days off. So they took me, I chose the days around the holiday. So I took Thursday and Monday off around the holiday, and I scheduled some time with the Cavalry, with Tank Zord and Melarina, and wow, I totally forgot his name. I'm an idiot. Slambo. And then today I was with the lovely Wickedella of Overplayed, who's in our chat right now. Unfortunately, Joran couldn't join us, but I was able to play with Joran a couple weeks ago and hang out with him in another Discord. And tomorrow I will be recording Velen's Chosen with my usual crew, represent the Hearthstone scene. And in the evening, we're going to be doing a really large roundtable with Overwatch Today. So myself and 8 other content creators within the podcasting space are going to be joining him for a roundtable discussion. And I believe the topic is going to be toxicity within Overwatch. And then on Sunday, my time again, in the evening, so Sunday morning, your time, if you're in the States, I'm going to be on Watchpoint Radio with Blazing Bob and his crew over there. And boy, 6 podcasts, 4 days has been crazy, but I just wanted to do this. And I know I just wanted to help out Payload because not only did some of these people really want some help, but wanted to let people know that there are lots of other resources out there in the podcasting space, and we're not above just doing our own stuff. We want to be involved. We want to help out people as we can. We also want to make sure that people are listening to other things in different venues. Not everybody wants to sit down and listen to people gob and gush about news and Overwatch strategy. Some people want the casual scene. They want the coverage of the esports scene, you know, the detailed discussions. And also, I'm not the personality that everybody wants in their earbuds, and Andres probably not either. But I mean, you have all kinds of personalities in the podcasting scene. So please go check out the Cavalry Overwatch podcast, Overplayed, Overwatch Today, Watchpoint Radio, the Payload podcast, and even our friends over at High Noon Podcast, who have been supporters of us since the very beginning with the Blevins and Deathblow. Special thanks to all of you content creators out there. I will try to remember to put in all of the links to these podcasts, but if you just jump in Google or you jump in your iTunes search engine, you should be able to find them. I think that's it for all of our community spotlight this week. Andres, would you like to let people know where they can find us on our Omnic Lab links?
Yeah, sure thing. You can find all of our episodes and archives on our website, omniclab.com. If you want to check out what we have over there, you can also join our community over on discord.me/omniclab. We got all of our listeners who want to participate in a little more social actions going on over there. Groups form all the time. There's great discussion. We also host the game nights over there. It's a great way to stay updated with the show, knowing what guests are going to come. We also take in questions for guests over there. So if you're still not part of the Discord, is probably the best way to interact with the show and Rob and I. You can also find us on YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, Twitch, all that stuff. And if you want to email the podcast, you can always email us at omniclabpodcast@gmail.com.
If you guys would like to find me personally, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram with the same tag at NotRob. If you wanted to see me open up 151 Frozen Throne Hearthstone packs, I have that VOD up along with this crazy game that I played of my priest deck the first day. That was a bad deck, but it was really fun. Over at twitch.tv/NotRobMay. If you guys like Hearthstone podcasts, you can hear me along with Eve Martin and Grant Gould for Velen's Chosen podcast at that website, Velen's Chosen podcast or VelensChosen.com. And my personal project, Concept Craft, just launched, and I had episode 2 go up this week about wow, I totally forgot what the topic was, but it's about content creators and gaming. So maybe you guys can find that. It's a short, under 30-minute podcast is kind of the goal, and it's all solo.
It was about
so if you guys like that
burnout.
Stuff, burnout, that's right.
There you go. That is what happens. Thanks, when Andres. You do too much content. You start forgetting what you do. It's a symptom of burnout, man.
Do all the things. Do all the things before you burn out.
All righty.
That's right.
And if you want to personally find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. You can also find my music blog, which I'm hoping to update with some new stuff that I'll be working on soon, over at SoundCloud.com. Look for iPlay Music, IPLAI Music. And you can also find my podcasting ventures over at audioblender.studio. If you want to start your own podcast and have any questions, you can look us up there.
That's going to do it for episode number 65, guys. Thanks for joining us about Lucio and Deathmatch. And we hope that you take some time this week to get on the PTR and check out Widowmaker's estate, because boy, howdy, is it cool. And don't drink too much of the wine bottles in the cellar. Those things might be poisonous. Remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see y'all next week. Adios.
Thanks everyone in the chat. Klim Dignar, dude, congrats. You got the Masters? I'm jealous. I'm gonna try to follow in your shoes. Thanks Wikidilla for hanging out. Love to have you in the chat. MVY Online.
Ivy.
Bodega Rats. Yo-Yo P238.
Sweet.
I love the guys that make it to the show so early on a Friday. You guys rock.
I love getting raided by PvP at off hours.
I always feel like nobody's gonna come in Friday mornings, but we always end up having like a nice little group that chills out.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, guys.